Henry Laurens of Charleston, South Carolina, was an American merchant, slave trader, and rice planter who became a political leader during the Revolutionary War and the only American to ever be sent to the Tower of London. Henry Laurens was born to a Huguenot family in Charleston, South Carolina in 1724. He would study in England before returning to the South to seek his fortune. Laurens earned a great deal of wealth as a planter and was partners in the largest slave trading house in North America, Austin and Laurens. Laurens also served in the militia, as did most able-bodied men in this time. He rose to the rank of lieutenant colonel in the campaigns against the Cherokee Indians and during the French and Indian War. When South Carolina began to create a revolutionary government, Laurens was elected to the Provincial Congress, which first met in Charlestown on January 9, 1775. He was elected president of the Committee of Safety and presiding officer of that Congress from June until March of 1776. When South Carolina installed a fully independent government, he served as the first vice president through June 27, 1777. Henry Laurens was named a delegate to the Continental Congress in 1777 and succeeded John Hancock as the third president of the Continental Congress through 1778. In 1779, the Continental Congress named Laurens their minister to the Netherlands. In this capacity, he successfully negotiated Dutch support for the Revolutionary War. But on his return voyage, the British intercepted his ship off the banks of Newfoundland. Although his dispatches were tossed in the water, they were retrieved by the British, who discovered the draft of a possible U.S.-Dutch treaty. This prompted Britain to declare war on the Dutch Republic. They arrested Laurens, charged him with treason, transported him to England, and imprisoned him in the Tower of London. By this time, the Tower of London was famous for being a political prison. The second wife of Henry VIII, Anne Boleyn, was sent to the Tower until her divorce was finalized with an axe. During World War II, the Deputy Fuehrer Rudolph Hess also spent time in the Tower. But the most famous resident of the Tower was the gunpowder plot architect Guy Fawkes. In 1605, Fawkes had plotted to blow up Parliament. The conspiracy was uncovered. He was taken to the Tower of London and tortured under special orders from King James. Fawkes and his surviving co-conspirators were also found guilty of high treason and sentenced to death. Unlike Anne Boleyn, who was beheaded, and Fawkes, who was hanged, drawn, and quartered, Laurens' stay was a little more genteel. Then, with the help of a former business associate, he was released in an exchange for General Lord Cornwallis, who had been captured by George Washington at Yorktown. To this day, Henry Laurens is the only American to have ever been held in the Tower of London. As the war moved to South Carolina, the fledgling republic was in desperate need of troops to counter the British advance. Laurens' son, Colonel John Laurens, argued to his father that many slaves share in the dangers and the glory of the efforts made by the U.S. and should be free to fight alongside their white counterparts. Colonel Laurens hoped to prove to Americans that slaves merited freedom and citizenship while helping to rebuild the army. Henry Laurens agreed with his son, and his views on slavery began to shift. Unfortunately, the slaves were not free to fight, and Colonel Laurens would ultimately die late in the war. Henry Laurens would serve his country one last time. In 1783, he was sent to Paris as one of the peace commissioners for the negotiations leading to the Treaty of Paris. While he wasn't a signatory on the primary treaty, he was instrumental in helping conclude the conflict and getting the United States recognized as an independent nation. Henry Laurens retired from public life in 1784 and would return to South Carolina, where he died in 1792. Laurens' last directive was to free his slave, George.
And now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.